studios of Brewery Street Mafia, this is a Red Dog Bread production.
And now, your number one rated show, The Mike Weatherford Show. Here's your host, Mike Weatherford.
Hey, welcome back to the Mike Weatherford Show, a special 4th of July show right here tonight going on. Guys, what better way to celebrate the 4th of July than to go back and find out what is the 4th of July? What are we celebrating? And who else would you rather have in the show when you're talking about the 4th of July, Independence Day of the greatest country in the world called America than the one and only Rick Revel. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Good to be here, sir.
Man, you dressed up, brother.
Well, this is my George Washington uniform. We've been doing, golly, I've been doing George Washington since July 4th, 2000 was my debut.
Really?
Isn't that cool?
That is very cool. We was talking before we went on the air. You're dressed up like George Washington. I should have been a Minuteman.
Yes, that Minuteman, Militiaman, Continental Soldier.
But, look here. What better than to have my 4th of July shirt on?
Salute.
There you go, man. It's all about. Rick, let me tell you a little story, brother.
Yeah.
What made me want to do this show, and I want y'all folks to listen to this. I was watching TV the other night, and they sent this reporter to a college campus. Mm-hmm. And they walked around with a microphone at them college kids.
Man in the street type of thing.
Man in the street type
Gotcha.
guy. Asking them college kids where we got our independence from, who we got it from.
Right.
Rick, it's embarrassing. Russia, Germany, Korea, Spain, and these people are going to college. Mm-hmm. One day they're going to be our leaders, and they couldn't tell us where in the hell we got our independence from.
Scary.
It's very scary. I said, I've got to, week of July the 4th, I've got to do a show, and hopefully my viewers are smart people. My viewers are some of the best in the world. They know what this Independence Day is about. But I want to rehash it with them. And what better than to get you on here to tell us about our independence. We are the best country in the world.
No doubt.
We are, without the 4th of July, our independence, it's going to blow people's mind. We wouldn't have any of our other holidays. We wouldn't have Veterans Day.
Or if we did celebrate something, it wouldn't have near the meaning that
it has. No, it'd be over in England.
That's right.
It'd be the king or queen or something like that.
It would be their holiday, their national holiday, not ours.
That's right.
Yep.
We wouldn't have Veterans Day. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't have Memorial Day.
Right.
We wouldn't have Thanksgiving as we know it.
Right.
We wouldn't have none of our holidays. And we've got people out there that doesn't understand what this holiday is about. It's not for barbecuing. It's not for, yes, to get the family together, but it's a celebration. Take us back to the 1700s when all them, our forefathers, which was young gentlemen. They wasn't old men. They wasn't old, grouchy old men that you hear nowadays.
Many in their 20s.
That's right. Sat around and said, we've had enough of this crap. Mm-hmm. We want independence. Take you from there.
Independence was something that was kind of a foreign term to so many in terms of that'd been under the rule of a king for many, many years. Even under the Magna Carta, that was the first document that was put out that would actually talk about freedom and give people a certain amount of personal rights. For those that are not familiar with the Magna Carta, this goes back to the 1200 AD, after death, AD, 1212 AD, and under King John of England.
Right.
And he was trying to keep peace amongst his barons, and he was trying to do something different. You had, under the king's rule, you had to do as he said. But as always, they're fighting with France or somebody.
That's right.
And so they were needing help. So the king needed help, and so he went to his barons. And this Magna Carta actually became like a peace agreement amongst them to give some type of freedom back to those, personal rights back to those individuals. And shortly after that, that's where the British Parliament came from. Now, to jump one step backwards, that's as far as back as I'm going to take you at this point, where the Magna Carta came from was actually from the Romans. Now, Britannia was one of their provinces or colonies back in Roman days. Okay. Britannia becomes Great Britain or England as we know it eventually. All right. Roman Empire, as we all know, had a Senate. They actually had an elected Senate.
And a Congress.
And yes, but they still had it where the Caesar or a king was over them.
Right.
So when England comes along, entered their own power, they kind of did a copycat and started structuring themselves very similar to how the Roman Empire was put together. Roman Empire lasted about 500 years at its peak. And so England says, well, it was good for them. We're going to try to adopt some of those ways. So the Magna Carta kind of adopted those situations. The Parliament began. It grew, then it kind of had a decline. But by the time America was colonized, it was on its climb back up again. So the Magna Carta had purpose. So when you start getting the first colonies in the United States, in the 1600s, at Jamestown was the first to adopt a charter. And the Jamestown Charter in 1606, I believe, 1606, 1608, when they Magna Carta was their kind of their blueprint.
Right.
They used that to kind of say, this is how we're going to put our charter together.
But let's go back and emphasize one thing.
Yep.
We're talking about young men.
Young
men, 19, 20, 21-year-old, had this vision. Do we have that today? Do we have 19, 20?
I don't think we seem to have it today. We have such a misunderstanding because the water has been muddied so bad by the news media, which is a whole different subject we'll get off on later.
Let's not go down. We don't want to beat them. They beat themselves up. We'll let them do it.
They do.
But that's the part I want to really emphasize here is we're talking about the greatest country that's ever been in existence is America, and the ideas came from young 19, 20, 21. There was some older people, but the majority of them was young men. Come up with this idea.
They were eager for a new life.
Yeah.
And so when they got here to America, it was wide open.
Yeah.
The Native Americans were here.
Yeah.
The Aborigines were here.
Yep.
So they were here in existence. But when the white man got here from England, there was nobody else here. Now, the Spanish had their explorers that came through. The French did. That's a whole nother subject to discuss. But far as the ones that started what we call the Declaration of Independence, this is from the English orientation. So they come in, and the Magna Carta is their base. So it is human rights, and it's the law of freedom as they saw it coming out of England. They still, though, had to answer to King George.
That's right.
When the mid to late 1700s happened. We had something called the French and Indian War. And during the French and Indian War, started in 1754, the British needed help. If you look back at world history, England was always fighting with somebody. Spain,
and it's an island country, small country.
Always fighting with somebody about something, and it's always trade rights, trade routes. And so the French and Indian War, the French had really expanded their empire in America. Huge. They had most of the Canadian area, and still to this very day.
Yes, French-Canadian.
Yeah. So they had a mass amount of area that they covered, and they had built quite an alliance with the Indians. They become allies. Right. And so England said, oh, man, we're going to need some help with this. So they started stirring up help with the colonies and getting the local militias. And the militias were formed in case the Native Americans got riled up and come to attack. They had a militia to fight them off.
We didn't have an army.
We didn't have a standing army at the time.
No, that's right. The only army we had was the redcoats that would come in here and make us do right.
Right. And so they needed help, and so our militias were formed. George Washington was part of that. Right. His brother starts out as the commander of the militia, but his brother-in-law gets sick. And his brother, gets sick, and so he has to go back home, and then George takes his place. So George Washington becomes a lieutenant colonel under the British command, and he's commanding a lot of the militia that goes into the fight against the French. So that's where he gets his experience. So you've got England needing to get rid of France, and it takes 10-plus years. It's like, like 1763 by the time the war is over, so it just drags on and on and on. So it drains their bank account, and they're still having to put up with Spain and everybody else on the big ocean waters.
Yeah.
They're trying to fight
Yeah.
off the armadas
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
those things. And so their coffers are becoming empty. So they begin to try to figure out ways, how can we pay for the war back through the colonies? So that's part of what started to happen. They started trying to figure out how to tax,
That's
to
right.
tariff, and put all these things onto the colonies
Yeah.
to pay for the war that took place here.
That's right.
And so they gradually started doing that. Then there was the East India Tea Company. And the East India Tea Company was definitely had the King George in their pocket.
Yeah.
Because they kept, it was payola, as we
Yeah,
might call it
yeah.
today. They were paying old King George.
That's right,
saying,
to sell the tea.
If you'll keep us as the
Yeah.
king of tea,
Yeah.
then
We'll
King
line
will
your
give you
pocket.
some money. We'll
That's
line
right.
your pockets.
That's right.
And so that was happening. And so East India Tea Company was the big tea company at the time, and tea was huge in the States.
Huge in England, still to this day.
Yeah, and so everybody was drinking tea, but it was also used for barter. Coinage and such back then was small.
Right.
So a lot of the barter system was still alive and well, and East India tea was used as a commodity, and it's something to
It's
barter
like
with.
kind of like the whiskey.
Very similar.
George Washington was known to be a whiskey brewer.
Yes, had a distillery
That's
that
right.
at Mount Vernon.
That's right.
And so, if you've never seen it, I wish I had. I did have a small sample. I wish I'd brought it with me, but it comes in a brick, and it's about a 12 by 12 brick. Is what it came in. Now we think of tea being
Loose.
ground up,
Yeah.
or in a tea bag. But
Yeah.
no, it was a brick. And there were 12 by 12 inch squares, and they were to where you could break them down into little blocks. It looked like a bar of soap. And so that's how you would barter. That's how you would trade. You break off your little piece, hand it to somebody. It had its net worth that day.
Right.
And then whatever item they had, they would give back to you. So it became a barter
Oh,
item.
it was like cash.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
East Tennessee tea, East India tea became a huge product back then, not only for something you would consume,
Yeah.
but as a trade item.
Really currency.
It's currency.
You could buy what you wanted with it if you had enough tea.
That's right. That's right.
Dang.
And so imagine this.
Wonder what tea was worth.
It seemed like to me, I think it's at one time it got as much as what we consider about $1 a brick. And so in that day, that's
a lot of money.
Yeah, that's
a
a lot of
dollar
money.
would buy you a farm.
Yeah. So, but that back then, once again,
Yeah.
we didn't have a dollar.
Right.
As far as coinage,
Right.
everything was done from England.
Right.
So we didn't have a dollar back then. We
Right.
didn't have our own currency yet.
No.
But the value we considered about $1 worth
Right.
on those blocks in trade commodity
Right.
of that day.
Ha.
So
That's cool.
it is cool. It is
Yeah.
kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
And so with that being a big item, the John Adams had a cousin, had Sam Adams. Sam Adams and some
Not
of the
the
boys.
brewer. We're talking about not the beer. We're talking about
Right.
the founding fathers.
Yeah, one of the founding fathers,
Right.
but he did hang at a pub all the time.
Yeah.
And this is back in the day when you have people like Thomas Paine and Benjamin Franklin's writing. So you have a lot of writers, Patrick Henry and all these different
Right,
ones are
right.
making their speeches, and
Yeah.
their writings are becoming very popular.
They're trying to steer it up.
They're trying to stir it up a little bit, and so people right now are paying more attention. Now, still at this point, well over half of the population, it's guesstimated, were still loyal to England, did not want to break away from England, and to be rebellious against the king was not a good thing.
Right.
But this whole East India tea thing,
Pissed
it
a bunch
got,
off.
oh, buddy, it got worse
Yeah.
and worse. And so Sam Adams, he could see how this was working, so he got with a local newspaper publisher, and they began to punch the bear, boy.
Yeah.
And as they began to punch it, then all of a sudden people got to say, oh, yeah, the taxes are going up. And so before long, as we all know about the Boston Tea Party, he organized a bunch of boys together. They went one night and they threw a lot of that very expensive tea. See, that's how we look at it today. Well, we go to the grocery store and we can buy a little box of tea for nothing and put them little tea bags in there. And we don't think about it as being something very high priced back then, something that was very valuable to them back then. It was like gold.
Yeah.
And so,
Because, not butting in, but England is known to be tea drinkers.
Yes.
And it's hot tea.
yes, hot tea.
Yeah, that's when people drink hot tea or cold coffee, they're not talking to Mike.
Right.
They got it ass backwards. I like cold tea and hot coffee. Now go ahead.
Right. Well, they decided it's time to put our words to action. So the newspapers had been printing that we need to do something, and they did. They went ahead and
did that start it?
That was part of what got the attention to the public. It got to rousting everybody to pay more attention. You've got a group of people that's throwing all this expensive tea into the harbor, and it was ruined. And so all this expensive tea's gone. Yeah. It made a huge statement. It got a lot of press coverage. Right. And the importance of the news media today, it was just that important back then. Now, all we had was newspapers, pamphlets, and books.
Right. And it really wasn't news. It was history. Time it got its way across the colonies.
Right.
There was, and it could happen today. You print it. Time that newspaper got 100 miles, it was 2 days.
Right.
And then you have people that was running the information amongst towns. They didn't have telegrams. What did you call them people?
And they had it. It was kind of the forerunner of the Pony Express.
That's right.
But they actually had stagecoaches back then also, so it would be moved by some of the private stage companies. We also had town criers. And
criers, what I'm trying to think of.
And so you would have the individuals that would come and they would do a public reading. They'd stand up, what we call a stump speech
That's
today.
Right, and read you the paper, basically.
Yeah, but they'd get a stack of crates or from an elevated position. They would read the announcement or the latest news. Right. And sometimes in some towns it'd be a scheduled event, especially in the larger cities.
Right. Was the newspapers in that time, Ricky, was they skewed like they are now? The news skewed, or was it leaning one way or the other? Was it just Walter Cronkite type of news?
Well, it's hard for me to say this, but in my opinion,
that's all we got is opinions.
In my opinion, that's a yes. And the reason being is the people that were publishing the newspapers then.
Damn fly! What is up with his fly?
He's a dive bomber. It's a Japanese dive bomber.
It's got to be.
Yeah, kamikaze. And he was dependent on the newspaper to spread the word about the taxation. So it might feel like it was skewed if you were King George or the English.
That's right.
You would feel it was being skewed against you. Right. But it was to make that point that...
But it was facts.
But it was facts far as the colonists were concerned. Right. We're being taxed heavily. Right. We've got other tax and tariffs and everything that's happening to us now. Yeah. And when we're talking about tariffs, we're talking about a double taxation.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about not only is it taxed when it arrives on shore, then it's taxed again.
As they sell it.
Right. And so it gets a double taxation.
So tariffs has been around forever.
Forever.
And so what we was trying to do, what England was trying to do was they had all these wars. They just fought the French, and they're still fighting. And they were saying, we're running out of money. We got this colony over there, and they're not doing their fair share, even though we was fighting the French. We didn't do our fair share, so they said, hey, they drink a lot of tea over there. A tea's $1, let's double it.
Right.
And then when they sell it in the store, get taxed again on it.
Right.
And that's where the word landlord and all that comes from England. But that's sad. It is, man. Then everybody got pissed off.
Yep, and then something else took place there in Boston. It was called the Boston Massacre. So they all get together one evening, and of course the tension's building. It's constantly building, and so they get together one evening, and it was kind of a spontaneous situation. It was snowing and very cold outside. The British were patrolling Boston, and all these events had caused such a high tension rate that they began yelling at one another, just seeing the British. It was a small company marching through.
That pissed them off.
And it made them mad, and so they started yelling back and forth, and so it didn't take too long before somebody in the group threw a brick and hit one of the British soldiers, and then they automatically fired back. And believe it or not, one of the first casualties was a black gentleman that was standing in the group. He was one of the first casualties. Several others were shot and wounded, and that's when it got everybody's attention that this is for real.
Right.
And so it wasn't too long after that you've got the Paul Revere event takes place, and there were others besides Paul Revere that went out and said the British are coming, are coming. Yeah. So it's forewarning some of the outlying communities, Concord and Lexington, that something is up. And by then we already have the First Continental Congress. They're very concerned. And we're wanting to take some type of action, report back to King George and say, hey, we do not like what's going on. So they actually, each state started getting representatives together. So if England can have their parliamentary procedures and their own parliament, we want to be able to have something similar so we can send a strong message back. So they found strong representatives for each of their colonies, and they began to meet there in Philadelphia. So that was one of the first steps being made to get the voice to King George officially and to get it out that we have a grievance. We want you to know that this is what we do not like.
We're not happy.
We're not happy with all this taxation. We've had the Boston Massacre. We've had a lot of things happen now that we're just really unhappy. So would you listen to us? So this is going on in Philadelphia. So we have an organized protest going. Then Thomas Paine puts out the book Common Sense. Now imagine this, Mike. Common Sense in 1775, I think it actually came out in January of 76, early. Can you imagine selling 150,000 copies in 3 months after it comes out?
Yeah, and there ain't no Amazon.
No, in that era.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's no Amazon.
Yeah, so
that's how important this was.
Yeah, so the people.
Wow.
It was like 47-page pamphlet basically taking the Magna Carta. That's the reason I talked about it so much before. Taking the common laws of man and the rights of man and putting it into a pamphlet. And as people began to read it, they started, oh, yeah. Now I get why Sam Adams and the boys did what they did and why we're so mad at what happened to the Boston Massacre. Right. So it begins to build a little bit. Momentum starts to pick up a little bit. So,
how long was this momentum building for? Years, months, weeks, days?
It's been building for years, ever since the close of the French War, French and Indian War. But you're looking at a period of 1773, 74 is when it starts picking up.
That ain't really long.
So you got about a 2-year span of time, and it starts picking up momentum quick.
And remember, we don't have internet. Newspapers is not nationally carried. It's readers, like you said, word of mouth. Basically, they're getting history. Mm-hmm. So it's taken a while for somebody to say something here. Time it gets across all the colonies, a month or 3. Mm-hmm. Everybody hears about it. Oh, really? What are we going to do? Well, they'll tell us. And 3 or 4 months later, you hear the rest of the story. Right. So that's understandable. It took 3 or 4 years. Now it's instant. We go back to your story.
The crazy thing is, John Adams wound up representing. Remember, we talked about the Boston Massacre. He wound up representing the British officers, the officer and the soldiers. They had a trial. They had a trial, and he wound up being a part of that. And so it was a crazy situation that he was placed in, but it gave him firsthand experience. It gave him that, oh, wow moment to be a part of what was taking place. He was right there at the button. When the buttons were being pushed, what was going to either make this all go away or going to push us into a revolutionary war, which changed everything. And so he was right there as it's happening. So you got Sam Adams over here pushing hot buttons with his boys at the bar, and he's really pushing them hard. Let's get out and make this thing happen. And they're gathering guns, and they're part of the group that goes to Concord and Lexington, and they're the ones waiting for the British are coming with the Paul Revere thing. And so when all that finally takes place at Concord and Lexington, that's when we know that we're to that point of no return when that shot around the world.
Was us as Americans, was we looking for a fight, or did we just something happen and said that's it? We didn't want to fight, but we're going to. Which way was it?
I believe it was both ways with different groups of people. You still had those that were
sympathizers,
and Tories, and you had those that didn't.
You still have that today.
You still do, and even John Adams wanted to remain loyal to the king. He really wanted to, because he had been a king. He had been a king for the crown for a long time. I mean, a lawyer for the crown for a long time, and so he wanted to stay loyal if he could. But then Concord and Lexington takes place. There's heavy casualties there. And basically the British Army heard about these munitions that Sam and the boys are piling up, and they wanted to get rid of the munitions, the stores. And so when the British Army comes in, this happens, perpetuates a small battle. There's casualties on both sides. Matter of fact, at the bridge there at Concord, The militia.
Had we started writing our Declaration of Independence yet?
As of January of '76, when the pamphlet came out from Thomas Paine, that they were talking about it.
Right.
But
they hadn't really started putting pen to paper yet.
Just
ideas was coming out.
Just ideas that they're
76.
Yep, and so 75, a lot of talk about it. All these events are taking place. You move into 76, and you start having all these events start taking place. The battles, Bunker Hill takes place.
Yeah.
And boy, when Bunker Hill took place, it's you got British warships firing, and it looked like a full-blown invasion because they're unloading from the ships to attack Bunker Hill. So the imagery's there, and
and people's got to remember, England is a long way from America.
Yep.
We had kind of been like cows turned loose in a pasture. Yeah. We had been let go, let wild. They were still coming out every once in a while, throwing a little grain to us, but they was basically taking our milk.
Yeah, they were.
They was milking the cows, and England was a long way. It was a 2 or 3 month journey just to get back to England and back to here. So, times move slow, and we just become, like we are today, independent. We decided we don't like all that crap. And you got all different people over here in America. But then it was growing. Population, I think, was 1.5 million by 1776. Am I far off on that number?
It's about that, because about half of that was Tories, and about the other half were they were trying to stir up that excitement inside themselves to be a part of the revolution.
So we had 1.5 million people over here in America, and they're not all English. There's all kind of mixes of. You got some French, you got, believe it or not, you got Germans coming, and they all bringing different cultures to America, and everybody's starting to think. Right? Am I correct? And they said we don't need them, and look what they've done. They've taxing the hell out of us. They're shooting at us. They're invading us, and it's our country. Take you from there.
Well, in the first Continental Congress we mentioned earlier, that starts about 2 years before the war, it was about taxation. So they're meeting and they're trying to figure out how do we just. They even sent like 27 grievances.
Yeah.
They wanted to say, this is why we're angry. Please fix this. Well, it didn't get fixed, and so 2 years later we're diving off into war. So basically in '76, now when the Second Congress comes in, it's like, okay, this is about a war act. I mean, this is about us. We got to figure out how to pay for this war, and how do we gather troops? Because at this time it was strictly militia. That's all they had.
That's right. And it didn't have no army. They had no leader. What was England thinking?
England, they actually kind of scoffed at it and thought it was not going to happen. They thought after basically Concord and Lexington, nothing would happen. Then they saw the formation at Bunker Hill. They said, well, definitely after this,
it's over.
It's over. And buddy, you're talking about bloodying the nose of the Patriots there. They did. Yeah. Bunker Hill was a bloody one. Right. So they hit us hard there at Bunker Hill, bloodied the nose real bad. And so basically King George thought, well,
that's it.
That's it.
They run their mouth. They seen what they got to fight.
It's over.
When they see the red, they'll go back home, get the plow up, and they'll start drinking tea, send us our money.
Yeah, and go into their moonshine still. But that's how he looked at it. He thought that his boys over here had done their job, and he didn't think he'd have to worry about it anymore. But,
moved on, trying to conquer. Yeah, okay.
He moved on, and he just didn't realize that there in the Second Congress, Continental Congress, he had some people already starting to put together ideas. Yeah. But here you have to understand the turmoil of Continental Congress. There in Philadelphia, they were not all wanting to be a part of this revolution. So the Declaration of Independence is going to be written by those that favored it, and then there was those that said, we're going back home. Yeah. So you basically have the people that represented New York, go figure that. They said, well, we're going to secede from this. They threatened secession.
From the independence?
From the colonies.
So they was going to stay loyal to England.
Yeah, they wanted to stay loyal to England, and they said...
Why do you think they was it just the fear of being self-guidance or self-preserved? What was England doing for some people, and now the state of New York,
Hudson Bay, and look at all the trade that took place there.
So they were scared to lose all that.
It was about money.
Still to this
Follow
day.
the money, and so it was. All those merchants were tied in heaviest. Right. The bulk of the trade in America at that time flowed through New York. So if it was happening in the colony of Georgia or these other colonies in the South, they were dependent on the colony of New York to get some of that.
Yep.
If it was cloth, let's say that you're bringing cloth in, it was the ports that was coming in was Boston or up there in New York. So that's where it would flow down from there. So New York, those merchants were making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it was about money, and so they did not want to break away from England. So you had a lot of resistance once again in the north. It's kind of interesting how the divide began then. So it became north against south. So you had a lot of northern colonies that did not want to break away. I wasn't
familiar with that.
And then you have southern colonies that seemed to be leading the way to do the breakaway. It was people from the Virginias and people from the southern states that wound up leading the way.
That's right.
Now, with exception, Adams, being from Boston, being from that area there, you have those individuals that are trying to remain, they are in the north, but they're very much fireballs to break away from England.
Right.
And so when it comes time to say, all right, we're going to write our independence, we're going to take the Magna Carta, we're going to take all the different writings from the past, we're going to look at them, and the Magna Carta being one of the main germs, one of the things that they kind of base it on. And so let's say we're going to get together a committee, and the committee being John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Livingston, or Roger Sherman, Robert
a lot
Livingston,
of people that people's not familiar with.
And Thomas Jefferson. There was 5 names.
Monroe?
Robert Livingston and Roger Sherman are the 2 lesser-known people.
Right.
But you've got Thomas Jefferson that then they all say, well, man, you've got the words and you've got the pen. And he actually winds up drafting most of it. The other 2 become Sherman and Livingston, become a little more silent. So it's up to basically Adams, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Jefferson. But Jefferson drafts it first, and then it's proofed by Adams and Franklin.
I like to read a lot of, I call it footnotes. You can tell me what it is, from Jefferson. Because that man left a lot of writings.
Yes.
A lot of footnotes. Is that the term you could use? And when people start talking about our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, in the Federalist Papers, and they start talking about all that, Thomas Jefferson had a remark about it. He had something to say. He didn't agree with all of it, but he worked. He disagreed with a whole bunch of our. Explain that.
Yeah, and sometimes he'd even contradict himself.
That's right.
It was kind of interesting.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with that.
If you read some of his writings,
I call it footnotes.
Yes, but in some of his writings, he actually contradicted himself because there's a lot of talk about the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist papers, but he could sway both ways a lot of times.
How old was he at the time?
You're talking about somebody, I think he's late 20s, early 30s when he's moving into this. Yeah.
Amazing. I keep going back to that because
I think he was one of the older ones. I think he was in his early 30s. I think.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I thought he never got out of his 20, but he may have been. To think about 20-year-olds in that era, 1700s, 1775. Let's go back to there. In their 20s, writing something, discussing something, putting together something that we call America today, compared to the 21-year-olds today.
Right.
They don't know what bathroom to use.
It's very scary.
It's what's happened.
Yeah. They're more worried about their pronouns than they are about
what
America.
I think's happened is let me make sure I get this correct because I'll probably screw it up. Good times make soft men. Soft men make bad times. Bad times make hard men. Mm-hmm. I think that's what happened. I got to take a commercial break. We want to get back, and we want to get into the writing of the greatest paper, other than the Bible, that was ever written in human history.
And the Bible had a lot to do with it. Yes, it did.
This thing we call the Declaration of Independence.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of people can't read it because it's wrote in cursive. All right, folks, here you go. If you want to find out more, all you got to do is go to www.rickrevel.com. He's got a YouTube channel, Rick Revel Mystery History, Facebook.com, R Revel the Patriot. Hell, it's everywhere. Rick Revel Music, rickrevel.com, Rick Revel Fans. Just type in, go to Google, type in Rick Revel, and he's got it everywhere. Hey, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence, the most important piece of paper other than the Bible that's ever been written in the history of America. So don't go nowhere. We're going to take a little quick commercial break and get back. We're going to finish this up. See you in a second. From all of us here at the Mike Weatherford Show, we want to wish everyone a safe and happy 4th of July.
Charter Senior Living, located at 350 Volunteer Drive, is a premier community for seniors interested in pursuing life, energy, and purpose. We have restaurant-style dining, life enrichment programs, social activities, local scheduled transportation, and a beauty salon. We show respect to our veterans with a wall of honor. Our mission at Charter Senior Living is to enhance the human spirit. For more information about Charter Senior Living, call us at 731-644-9680.
Is your tank on empty? Come to 54 Fuel Mart, located at 1213 A Westwood Street, for the best prices on gas. What about your other tank? You know, the one that is growling? 54 Fuel Mart has you covered for that as well. Check out our fried chicken, wings, pizza, and many other items to satisfy your hunger. On Tuesdays and Fridays, you really need to check out the fried fish. We also have a selection of freeze-dried candies, along with an entire aisle of candy bars and other sweets. Is it raining, or do you just not want to get out of the car? We have a drive-up window for your convenience. We also have dyed diesel for use in your tractors and other farm equipment. We have parking for big rigs, and our business hours are 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Feeling lucky? Well, do you? We have scratch-offs, and you can try your hand and the TN Lottery while you're here. 54 Fuel Mart, located at the Westwood Y, Paris.
Chad Cox, PLLC, provides representation in the areas of criminal law, family law, personal injury, wills and probate law. Chad Cox serves Paris and the surrounding area. He does not believe in a one-size-fits-all approach to representing his clients. He reviews every detail of your case to ensure that you receive an assessment that is specific to the unique circumstances in your case. Chad Cox is located at 104 North Brewer Street, Paris, Tennessee. Contact us at 731-642-4446.
The Downtown Event Center is available for parties, meetings, or family get-togethers. The center comes with spacious seating and an area that will help make serving food easier. If you are having a birthday party, this is definitely the place for you. The Downtown Event Center is located at 107 South Brewer Street. Contact Jessica at 731-642-4992 to make your reservation.
Hey everyone, this is Jeremy Buckaloo reminding you to tune in to Sportscast with Jeremy Buckaloo live every Sunday night at 7:30 here from the Brewer Street Mafia Studios.
All right, folks, don't forget, we're not going to be here next week. We're taking a week off. It's going to be a vacation. Your humble host. I know everybody thinks I'm just like a robot, that I go all the time, but I'm taking a week off. We're not going to be here on July the 8th. We're going to take a little time off, but we're coming back wide open Tuesday, July the 15th, same time, same place. And we got TEC coming on. They're coming to town. They're bringing just fiber optic internet to your home, We're going to find out where they're going, how it's working. They're kind of hooking up with the BPU. We got some exciting news about the Mike Weatherford Show and TEC teaming up. You're going to like what we're going to be talking about. TEC and the Mike Weatherford Show are going to team up together, and we're going to talk about that major announcement coming up next week too. But remember, Tuesday, July the 15th, all the information you've been wanting to know about this new internet. You've seen them around town. You've seen them out on the highways running lines. You've heard about all of this. What is TEC doing? What are they bringing? How are they hooking up with the BPU? What it's going to do for you? What it's going to do for everybody? This is going to be a night full of exciting breaking news that you're going to only hear first right here on the Mike Weatherford Show. That's coming at Tuesday, July the 15th at 7 p.m. And don't forget, coming up Sunday the 13th, Jeremy's going to take a vacation next week. We're all taking some time off. It's Independence Day, and we're going to celebrate. But come on back to 13th. Tune in to Jeremy on Sportscast Live with Jeremy. He's got KD Freeman from the Paris Heat, Adam Jenkins from Henry County Havoc. They're going to be talking about Tennessee's next basketball star. They're coaching the next basketball star, training champions on and off the court. It's going to be a great show with KD Freeman, Adam Jenkins, going to be live on Sportscast with Jeremy Bucklow. Don't forget, if you haven't done it yet, go on over Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. Find Sportscast Live with Jeremy Bucklow. Do me a favor. Up there in that corner, you're going to see a little button that says follow. Take your finger, roll up there, and go click, follow him so you'll know when he's got something new, exciting coming up. You can follow all of his shows, find out all the sports from everything going on around the area. It ain't just Henry County. It's national sports shows, and it's also international sports shows. So tune in with Sportscast Live with Jeremy Bucklow every Sunday at 7:30. And this week on Tennessee Informer, we got Gene Andrews coming on, director caretaker of the NBF Boyhood Home, Nathan Bedford Forrest's home. Remember, Nathan Bedford Forrest, the general they want you to forget. He's going to be on the show with Dave. That's coming up July the 13th. July the 14th, excuse me. Too many Julys on my board up there. Monday, July the 14th, 7 p.m. Central Time. Tune in to the Informer with Dave Vance and find out from Gene Andrews all about Remember Nathan Bedford Forrest. That's going to be a good show coming up. Don't miss it. And also, we got somebody else we want to talk about. We all know our buddy Terry Hudson. Terry Hudson has got this internet radio deal he's got going. I don't know a lot about it, but I do want you to do this. Go over to ClassicHitsZ107.com and tune in, and they've got all the great music. There's live DJs, different time, different days. It's 24 hours. There's 3 different shows that Terry Hudson's doing. Going over to ClassicHits107.com and check him out. It's pretty cool called Z107 The Shark. It's new internet radio. It's coming. Hey, it's here. It's right here. Might as well absorb it. Get ready for it. You got Classic Jukebox with Terry Hudson, Classic Hits, and Blue Collar Americana. He's got 3 different shows, 3 different days, 3 different times, plus other live DJs. That's going on over at Z107 The Shark. Tune into him. Check it out. Don't forget, Mike Weatherford Show. We're simulcasting live on Facebook and YouTube and also Spotify. Go on over to www.myparishtv.com and see all the great shows that's listed. There's everything over there. Just go to myparishtv.com. Find out what's over there. You can find all the great shows that's coming through you from Brewer Street Mafia and Kill Media. There's great shows. We're adding new shows all the time. We're doing something because we want to be your go-to place for all the things we want to know about. So there you go, folks. Keep up with what's going on. And, all right. And, it's the Declaration of Independence. And swat and fly. I wish I had a damn fly swatter. The dude don't come out till we go live.
Till we go to talk. You know, it's going to fly in your mouth or mine.
That's exactly. We'll be gagging and puking right here. I think the fly wants to be famous. Look,
It's what
dude,
it
if he'll
is.
just land up here on this monitor right here, I'll let him sit there and I'll zoom in on him, give me his 15 minutes of fame.
There you go.
If he'll just sit down. But I've been talking with Rick. We've been talking about everything from the beginning of America, the Revolutionary War. We're working our way all the way up, and now we're going to talk about the grand finale, the best paper ever written in the history of mankind, other than the Bible, the Declaration of Independence. Put me back into the time and put me into the mindset of what our founding fathers was doing when they're all sitting around them taverns drinking that dark lager beer and hot tea, and they've been thinking, we want to get away from England's bullcrap. We're sick of it. We want to do our own thing. We know how to do our own thing. There's so many ideas. We've been, like I said, it ain't like you pick up the phone and call London, England. Back then, it was a 3-month journey there and a 3-month journey back. We figured out all they wanted was our money and our resources. You had all them furs companies coming in. You had cotton. You had all them. And all they was doing was taking.
Right.
So we wanted to be independent. So take it away with them guys sitting at the pub talking about what we was going to do. That's where they was meeting at.
Well, they had offered a time we'd meet at a pub.
Yep.
Jefferson would kind of go to himself. He would sit at his desk there, actually, where he penned the Declaration of Independence. That wooden desk is actually a tabletop desk. Mm-hmm. It's just a little rectangular desk with a flip top that you sit on the top of a tabletop desk.
Where was he at? Boston?
He stayed in his apartment. And, he had a place there in the Philly area, so he would stay there and he would write. I think he went back out to his place there in Monticello.
Was he taking ideas from all the founding fathers and putting them?
He first listened to all the other four gentlemen.
Right.
He listened to them first. He kind of made notes of what they all had to say. Then, like we talked about the Magna Carta, he took it, read it, began to take what he felt would be the best interpretation. He brought it back. It was just basically down to John Adams and Benjamin Franklin to do the proofing of it, and then they would sit there basically at the Congressional Hall there. He would sit there at Independence Hall. They would sit there and kick the ideas back and forth. So
Had England got wind of it yet?
Not yet. Okay. At this point, it's just on the battlefront.
Gotcha.
Washington's trying to hold his own. By now, they had called him the Commander-in-Chief. That was a title that Continental Congress gave him. He was given the command to the demand to go out and form an army. They tried to put some money together, but at the beginning, George Washington's funding things himself, as well as some of the founding fathers of Congress. They're putting their
own money.
They're putting their own money into the revolution.
Now remember, folks, we're talking about 21. Now some of your people was older. Benjamin Franklin was older.
Yep.
But basically 20 to 30-year-olds.
Yeah, they took this whole thing of independence very seriously. They literally put their lives on the line, knowing that once they did this, we talk about pushing buttons. They knew once they pushed that button, there's no going back. Yeah. They knew that most likely they would be targets, and that's what happened. A lot of them became targets. Yeah. And so
by London and by the sympathizers.
Tories. A lot of them became, they were tarred and feathered by the Tories.
That's right.
Some of the Tories would actually they would look up your family members. Yeah. So, it didn't matter. Your children would become targets.
So we had terrorism in this country from the very beginning.
So if they found, if you were one of the people there at Continental Congress, and they found, say, Mike, we're coming for your family. Yeah. the Weatherford Mafia, Bruce Street Mafia. Yeah. But they would come for your family, literally. Yeah. And so they knew then the least thing that would happen, they get tarred and feathered, but their homes would be burned, their children would be killed. And so a lot of them at the end of the war were bankrupt, and if they survived, they were bankrupt. But some were hung, some were shot. Yeah. So you got all this worry that a lot of them faced. So
I want the audience to put yourself in that position.
Yeah, but they were willing to sacrifice everything. Yeah. Once they knew if once this thing was written, and if they all signed off on it, what it meant. Now none of them has signed off on it as of yet. The two gentlemen, they look at it, Franklin and Adams. They look at it. They say this we'll make this change here, and they wanted to make sure. Franklin was a little skeptical. He was not considered an agnostic. A lot of people said he was an agnostic. Some even want to say that he was an atheist, but believe it or not, during one of the sessions, when some of the people from New York and up north were really getting things riled up and there was anger brewing and then nobody could agree on anything, he actually called for a stop. And he said, gentlemen, it's time for us to stop and pray. So if he was a true agnostic, he would have never asked for prayer.
That's exactly.
So he asked for prayer. He said, gentlemen, it's time for us to stop and pray.
Yeah, because he knows it's getting real.
Yeah, it's getting real. He said, we got to stop right here. We're going to have to let things cool down.
So they moved on and started writing our Declaration of Independence. There's that fly. I'm going to put him up on that monitor. But anyway, as long as you stay over there, brother, we're going to get along. We're going to have another independence when I get a fly swatter. But where did... I don't know how to put this in words. How did they list our amendments? I think, personally, they're listed in order of importance.
Importance? Yeah.
Because you said freedom of the press, freedom of speech, same thing. What that means, and I want you to correct me where I'm wrong, because I've spoken on this before at different places. They basically said you've got the right, if you don't like something that's going on, to bitch about it. You've got the right to print about it. And if that don't change your attitude, the Second Amendment, you've got the right to a gun. And that gun is the what? For a government that's against the people.
Right.
Go ahead, explain that.
Yeah, one of the things that Jefferson talked about was the right of revolution. He said if there's and he even felt that the Tree of Liberty has a right to revolution every so many years. Yeah, he felt it should happen ever so often.
Well, he might be on to something.
He might be, but
and here's another thing.
Yeah.
I hate to butt in. There's a lot of confusion, and I want you to put this in your words or how it is. Right now, you hear protests that our president is tearing up our democracy.
Okay.
And I tell them we're not a democracy. We're a republic, in which we are.
Right.
The only thing democracy about America is the way we do our elections, and there's checks and balances in place of that. Is the word democracy in our Constitution anywhere?
It's not as I can find it. I think where people get it confused is how we do vote during a national election or some of our local elections, because we say that each vote counts.
Yeah.
And a true democracy, pretty much simple. If let's say that you own a bicycle and everybody votes against you, that they want your bicycle. Yeah. Then they're going to have your bicycle.
What I call is mob rule.
Yeah.
That's where 50
they can vote against you.
Yeah.
And then you wind up not having that bicycle.
What I call is mob rule, where 50.1% can put their will on 49.9%. Go ahead.
But in a true republic, your bicycle doesn't have to be put on the auction block.
That's right.
It's your bicycle, so it's never questioned whether it's your bicycle or not. But things can be voted to be taken away from you.
That's right.
And see, that's how they want to come at it. Well, we want to be able, as a democracy, to take away your right for the gun. But see, that is not in there.
No, it's not. The word democracy is not written anywhere.
Right. But see, that's
the Bill of Rights is. Have you found the word democracy in our Bill of Rights?
No,
it's not there.
So
it's an argument tool, because we do have a democracy form of elections, but we've got checks and balances that people argue with today. Is what we use as our electoral college. And people says that means your vote don't count. Well, no, it makes our vote count. It's right opposite of what people say. Could you imagine without the electoral college, Tennessee wouldn't even have to vote. Our election would be set by Los Angeles, Chicago, maybe Philadelphia, but your larger cities would be where all your votes was, and Tennessee might as well just go home and not even vote. There's more people in Los Angeles than are in the whole state of Tennessee. Yeah. We're growing. A lot of them's leaving California. But what was their intent when they wrote the Declaration of Independence and then they wrote our Bill of Rights? What was they really, honestly, and it had a lot of God in it, what was their intent?
The Declaration of Independence was that very thing. It was a declaration. They wanted for the King of England
to know
where they stood. So it starts out, we the people. They wanted to know they were united.
That's right.
So that was where that comes in. Now, you get down to the constitutional and to the amendments and on all these things, the Bill of Rights, that kind of goes into a different direction. But as far as that declaration, they wanted the King of England to know where they felt there was divine providence, and that's how they called it. That was about the only real change that Franklin brought to it, is one of his ways of kind of amending it on the original writings of Jefferson. He called it a divine providence, as opposed to saying flat out that this is a God-ordained thing. They called it, instead of saying God-ordained, they said it's divine providence.
Same thing.
So it's basically the same thing.
It's
just
divine,
yeah. So it's just
what did England say? Did they send them a copy? Did they email them something?
They emailed it to them.
Yeah.
So you've got on the 2nd of July, this was presented to Congress on the 2nd of July. Everybody heard the reading of it.
Right.
They approved it. They voted for it. Now, here's what happens. They vote for it, but then there was a couple more changes.
Who was they?
Now, this is the Second Continental Congress. This takes place in Philadelphia.
How many members?
At that time, you had 2 from each colony. I can't give you a quick total amount.
I think around 28.
At that time. But you have the total amount of colonies that are present. They turn in the vote. It passes
unanimously.
Pretty much unanimously. The New York people and those that was being towheads, they kind of line up and go along with it.
They eventually come around.
I think they finally came around to it. But then you come up on the 4th of July, which is Independence Day. They went ahead and said, let's make it public. So they had a public reading there. On the steps, and so they made it public, and then they wanted to get a copy sent to George Washington.
Was there any redcoats around?
At that time, no. Washington and the militia and the armies had been successful at keeping them out of Philadelphia. But
they were still on the continent.
Oh, yeah, they were still battles going on.
And they read that.
Yeah, matter of fact, at this time, Washington was leading them around, trying to stay ahead of them. The Continental Army was just always 1 or 2 steps ahead of the British Army, just staying just ahead of them, just enough. But they were trying to keep them out of Philadelphia. Eventually, the British Army does come back and retakes the city, so they wind up with it, and the Congress has to move. But on 4th of July, they went ahead and made it official in that city. They sent a copy for George Washington to read to his commanders.
And not knowing if it was ever going to be anything.
Because at that point, it just took place locally.
That's right.
Where
They didn't know.
were.
You know, folks, think about this. That was done at a time when it was just a weapon of prayer. We could have lost. Mm-hmm. It could have just been wadded up and thrown away and been footnote in history, right?
Yeah, there was a letter that John Adams sent to Abigail, his wife, and Benjamin Franklin had similar feelings, but John Adams sent a letter. And he was hoping that the 2nd of July would be considered Independence Day, because that's the day they voted on it. Yeah. And one of the things he talked about, he was hoping that they would fire guns in the air and have fireworks. He didn't specifically say fireworks, but Franklin did. Franklin talked about fireworks, but John Adams talked about having celebrations in the street and celebrating that day.
But the whole colony, the whole America was in its infancy.
Oh, it was.
Nobody. You still had your loyalists to the Union, and here you got a bunch of ragtag teenagers, a little older than teenagers, just come up with this idea and call it America. And they wrote a piece of paper declaring England, sticking their finger up to them. We're done. We're still fighting, but we're done. We want to be independent from y'all. We're going to rule ourselves. And the odds of that happening, man, is, God, I mean, what was the odds of that ever getting done? I mean, it's got to be slim.
It took close to 3 months, but the
I'm talking about for it to even happen. We hadn't even whooped them yet.
No, hadn't. Oh, it'd be up until the 1780s before we would win the war.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so you've got. It didn't really become official until it was signed, and it was not signed until August 2nd of 1776. So you got that gap between July 4th and August 2nd of 1776 before it's officially signed by all of the members. I think there was a few absent that had to be pulled in to
Who's
to
the
make
last
it
one to sign it?
I can't remember the last one. Of course, Hancock was the largest.
Yeah.
And as soon as they got all this together, they had to have some type of government, and so that's a whole other conversation we'll slide into here shortly. But they officially would call it August 2nd would be when the Declaration would be an official document. So,
but we pick it up. It's July the 4th. You know, it's a very important day. I got to move something right here. Let me find my note right here. Do you know there's on July the 4th, there's a lot of popular people other than America being founded on July the 4th. I want y'all to think about this, folks. Post Malone, he's a pop singer. He was born on July the 4th. Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president of the United States of America, was born on July the 4th. Julio Chavez, a 3-weight division boxing champion, born on July the 4th. Bill Withers, y'all know who Bill Withers is? You know that song, Sing It, Lean On Me, sing it.
Lean on me.
Remember that song, Lean On Me?
You're not strong.
That's right. He was born on July the 4th. Geraldo Rivera, of all people, was born on July the 4th. And there's hundreds of other people, but I knew that's a good mix of people that was born on July the 4th. And there's also one other person that you don't even know, your humble host, Mike. I was born on July the 4th. So I had to get that out there.
That's good.
It is. I mixed in with a lot of good people, man.
So, are you going to have fireworks on your birthday?
Yes.
Yeah, every year you have fireworks
Let
on
me
your
tell
birthday.
you a quick story.
Yeah.
I got to get you out of here. When I was growing up with my children, I would carry them to see fireworks. We'd shoot them at the house. There was big celebrations. They were young tots, you know. And we was at Cottage Grove, my hometown. And this man walked up to my son, Derek, and he said, "Do you like these fireworks?" Derek said, "Yeah, they're nice." And he said, "Well, I'm glad you did." He said, "Yeah, they're doing it for my daddy's birthday." He said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." Well, now they tell a story that, you know, Dad lied to us, told us all them years. And we finally got grown, looked at him and said, for all them years, Dad lied to us. Said the whole country celebrated Dad's birthday. I mean, it worked. You know, why not use it? But, you know, I want to get that out there about, you know, these people, they don't tell you birthdays, people born on June the 20th. They don't tell you people born on May 3rd. Mm-hmm. But the 4th of July is an important day in America. Very important. Yeah. I'm going to say this again. When I seen that show, that's why I reached out to you, and I appreciate you coming on. When I seen that on a college campus, our future leaders didn't even know who we got our independence from. Right. I was appalled. Now, I don't know how many that they might have just been, that was all there was out of thousands. I don't know how many. But it shouldn't have been one. Right. What are we doing in this country? Right. What are we doing to where the most important day in the history of the world? Because America is the most. Look, we rule the world. Yep. What are we doing in this country to where we don't teach these children what Independence Day is about? It's not about barbecuing. It's not about Mike's birthday or Geraldo's birthday. It's about the birthday of the greatest nation that's ever been in existence, better than Rome. Right. What are we doing as a country, Rick? You follow me? The Declaration of Independence for some is just a piece of paper. And those that say that normally are those that say, well, the Bible is just another book. That's right. So for those that say the Bible is just another book or the Declaration of Independence is just another piece of paper, it is a sacred piece of paper. Now, I'm not an ancestor worshiper. I know in Japan, a lot of people, come from a culture of worshiping their ancestors. This is not about worshiping their ancestors. And it's not about a sacrilege or something or being a heretic. It's a patriot. But as a patriot, you look at this piece of paper, it's very sacred. Now, let me give you a reason that I feel it's that way, because it talks about divine providence. It talks about our rights. Right. And it sets up things for later when we become an established country. But there's some things that took place with John Adams and Thomas Jefferson
Now, I want you to listen close to this story. They became close friends as time passed. As time passed, they did have a separation. But they They did disagree on the Federalist, anti-Federalist stuff. Thomas Jefferson sometimes was bounced back and forth, but for the most part, he didn't want a big government.
That's right.
But John Adams did. So they disagreed on that. So we already, in the very beginning, had people wanting big government. Yeah. We've got Hamilton. You got Hamilton wanting to have federal banks.
Yeah.
And then you got people that saying, you crazy.
That's what we're getting away from.
Yeah, Yeah. And so you have those that's trying to keep it small, a lot like the Articles of Confederation, which left independence for each state. But then people wanted to draw up a constitution. That gets a whole different point of discussion. These two individuals disagreed, but yet they agreed on a lot of things also. They wanted to keep the country together. To see how much I think they had. Now listen close. The 4th of July has a lot of importance. On the 4th of July, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, I think the year was 1826, 4th of July, both pass away the same day within minutes of one another.
Really?
Miles apart. They both pass away on the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Wow.
July 4th,
That is
1826. That's divine.
That is divine.
Both men pass away the same day.
That is amazing. I didn't.
Why
didn't I know that?
And in their memoirs, they're actually talking about each other to their families. They're talking. Adams on his deathbed talking about Jefferson. I just wished I could see him one more time. Yeah. Jefferson on his deathbed saying, "I wish I could see Adams one more time."
Yeah. Wow.
And these are the people that put that on paper.
Really.
And then, of course, Jefferson has a lot to do with Articles of Confederation and other things that follow down the road.
That is amazing. That is a story I wasn't aware of. Maybe I did know it and forgot it. I don't know. That's divine.
But that tells you right there that the men that helped put this together
argued, but they come back together.
But if they were able to still be friends after all these years, are the ones that put it together. They die on the same day. Yeah. It's the 50th anniversary. Within minutes of one another, they pass away. Something that tells you right there. That gives me chills right there.
It does too, bro. That's amazing. People says that Declaration of Independence and our Bill of Rights is old. We need to do away with it. Start fresh. It's a breathing, living document. If you open up that thing, which if you have a constitutional amendment, you can open it up and change things. How many amendments do we have?
Yeah.
It's been opened.
Right.
There's a lot of amendments in that Constitution. So that tells you it's not old-fashioned. And a lot of people misunderstand what they said in the writings in 1775 and 1776 when they said certain things. But you got to go back and remember what was white, what was red, what was green in 1776. If you'll do that, you'll understand their true meaning. It's not contradicting.
Right.
You can't judge someone for something that was done in 1700s in 2025.
Right.
But the Constitution of the United States of America is the best written piece of paper other than the Bible that's ever been written. It's a breathing, living document that you can amend.
Right.
We've amended it.
Right.
Why does people say that? That it's old-fashioned, we don't need it no more, we need a new, we need to change this, change that, when it's worked, made us the most powerful military, economically. We do more good. Everybody only remembers the bad. We shoot bombs, we shoot missiles, sure we do all that, and it's horrible, don't get me wrong, but look at the good we do.
Mike, I think once again it goes back to the point I made earlier. Those that want to change it now are still the ones that want to say, well, the Bible has no place today in today's world.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of those are the same exact people that take the Bible as just nothing no more than a book. Yeah. And it has no importance. So those are the same people that want to change the Constitution. Right. But everybody needs to keep in mind, we started out with the Declaration of Independence. That was our declaration to establish with the King of England. Then we had to have some type of form of government.
That's right. That's another story.
Then the Articles of Confederation developed, and then from there it went to the Constitution.
Yeah.
And so there's 3 levels, and so people we don't teach civics anymore.
No, we don't.
We don't teach history anymore, so people have no idea
That's right.
how our government was put together.
When I seen that mainstream media show, going to a college
Yep.
and asking second-year college students, what did we get independence from? And they said everything but England. I like to lost it.
Right.
What in the hell?
Right.
Rick, I don't want to keep you with an hour and 10 minutes. You want to close it with anything? Don't seem that
It
long.
don't seem like it. No, it doesn't.
We got some speed round questions I want to ask you. They're going to pop them up right here. And these are for you, Rick.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Right quick, let's run through them. Line them up here for me, guys. Washington or Jefferson, who would be more fun at a backyard barbecue?
Oh Lord, Jefferson had the quips, but he could also be very stoic. I tell you what, George Washington, he was quite popular at things like that. So I'd say George Washington. He was quite the ladies' man.
Benjamin Franklin was,
but Washington could waltz.
Yeah, really.
He could waltz, and the ladies loved to waltz
But
with
Ben
him.
Franklin was a man whore. Right or wrong?
He loved the ladies.
He loved the ladies, but he was a
for
man
sure.
whore. All right, go next question.
In France, he did. He had
Favorite
fun.
founding father besides the obvious? Who was your favorite?
Besides Washington, it has to be Jefferson.
I can tell you.
Just because of how he planted himself, and he was like a tree. He stood, and he wouldn't.
I liked his
wouldn't wave.
footnotes.
Yes,
Because
he
I
wouldn't
want
wave.
to. I go back and I find what Jefferson quotes.
Mm-hmm.
They're good quotes. The stuff he said. All right, go back to my next one here. More ironic, Paul Revere's Ride or the Boston Tea Party? In your question, in your idea.
Well, I wrote a song called "The Almost Famous Ride of Paul Revere," so I have to lean toward that one.
Okay. Go ahead, next one. Would Rick Revel survive Valley Forge? Be honest.
I think modern day people would have a tough time surviving way back when. Although I have had the opportunity to be in 54-inch snow at about 12 degrees outside, it's not. You have to be prepared for it.
You have to be conditioned for it.
You have to be conditioned for
Lived
it.
in. I don't think there's very many people that can go back.
No.
In today's society, it'd be hard to find anybody to survive World War II.
And a lot of them didn't either because they were exposed to the elements constantly.
Yeah.
There's a story to where on two different occasions that he had a sentry posted there at Valley Forge who actually froze to death while still standing at his
I got a
post.
question here. Did somebody ask if Ben Franklin ever run for president?
No, but they talked about him doing it, and he didn't want to be bothered with it. He loved being the ambassador to France because
the ladies.
Of the ladies.
Right,
He was spoiled rotten.
There you go. Next one. If you could travel back to one revolutionary moment, what would it be and why? That's your question. You didn't know you was going to get these.
Yeah.
It's all about Rick now.
Crossing the Delaware. I would have loved to cross the Delaware with Washington. That would have been an incredible event because that was the turning point of the war.
I know these questions. Do you know what I would like to see? I'd like to sit down there and watch Thomas Jefferson and listen to him mumble to himself as he was writing the Declaration of Independence.
Yes.
I'd love to be this damn fly is wearing us to death.
Right.
I'd want to be that fly.
Yeah, fly on the wall.
Because he was talking. Read right back. Because they acted different we do. They still had a lot of English in there.
Yes, it is.
And, when he talked, and I would love to go back and hear what he was saying as he was putting that to paper. Can you imagine what he was thinking and what he was saying out loud? Because he was questioning people, asking their opinion. I read some article. He asked some people in that room opinions. What do you think? Because he wanted to make sure he was doing the right thing. Next question.
Yep.
This is for you, Rick. What's more dangerous, red coats or red actors with muskets?
Definitely reenactors with muskets.
I imagine that's right.
Yeah.
What's your favorite historical myth that's not true?
Oh, George Washington had wooden teeth.
He didn't have wooden teeth?
He did not have wooden teeth.
Really?
It is one of the biggest myths that ever was.
I thought he did. I thought they was on display.
The curator said his favorite set of teeth were made of cow's teeth, pig's teeth, and goat's teeth, and it was crafted by Benjamin Franklin and a French dentist of the day.
Wow.
Now imagine, you know what wood does, don't you, in water?
Yeah,
it swells. But by age 35, he had lost all of his teeth.
Right.
People back then didn't know what dental care really was.
No, they didn't have the dental care in their diets.
Right.
They drank that hot tea. I had to be bad on your teeth. we got another one, I believe. I asked you this question. Is that it? Which 1700 slang word did you wish would make a comeback? You didn't know you were going to get these.
1700 slang word. Well, the slang word, the British are coming, the British are coming.
That wasn't a slang.
I don't know what a slang word would be from that period.
You got to be one.
Arse.
Yeah.
Arse. A-R-S-E, arse. Oh, you fell on the arse, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of words that we use today that was back then. Mm-hmm. A lot of vulgarness is come from that era.
Yeah. But arse was a big word from back then.
Really
fell on the arse.
I can't remember what it was, but on my phone, on some of these reels, there is a parts that come on and it says words that we use today where they originated. And a lot of them go back into the 1800s and 1700s. Words that they used back then, how they originated today, we still use them. I think we got another one here. If you had to sing one patriotic song on the spot, right now, if I said, sing me a patriotic song, Rick, what would it be?
and it can't be Dixie?
No, it can't be Dixie. Patriotic. You're right. What would it be?
Oh.
You're supposed to be my guest. I treat you like this, right?
Yeah. No, see, can you see?
Yeah, that would be your favorite. There you go. All right, that's a good one. I think I got another one for you, Rick. One word that sums up the spirit of the American Revolution. One word.
Sacrifice.
Mine's patriotic.
Yeah, they were willing to sacrifice everything.
When you told me the terrorism that was going on toward their families, toward them, and I keep going back to this because I've not given up on mankind. I think we'll make a comeback. I think men will learn to be men again one day. I think the alpha males will come to the surface again. I think the beta males are going to eventually, they're just going to float away. But I think that them 20-year-olds and early 30s sitting down and doing what they did means a lot to me. I don't know why, but that just sticks in my head. Because I look at 21-year-olds today.
Right.
Could they write a Declaration of Independence?
No, part of it has to do with...
They're living what they grew up in.
Yeah, they're living what they grew up in. And everything is swapped.
Yeah.
It's all about me. It's all about what I can gain. And my philosophy is very simple. It's not what you take from this world. It's what you leave behind.
You know, there's a president said, don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
That's right.
And I think that's true.
Yeah, you need to leave behind things. It's about legacy, and the legacy can't be about you. It has to be about others.
You know, I tell people this all the time. We're on this old world together. You know, I can't get the whole pizza, but if I can get my bite.
Right.
We got one more, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that it? I only had 10 of them for you.
The top 10.
The top 10. Well, Rick, we didn't cover everything we wanted to, but I told you, I just called you. I tell my viewers the truth.
Right.
I called you and I said, Rick, I want to apologize for being so late into this. I said, I want you to come on and let's talk about the 4th of July. And I said, what better guest to have than Rick Revel? And I called you and we talked.
I appreciate it.
We have not even talked before this.
No prep.
No prep. You said, I'll be there. And you walk in, and I'm dressed in my red, white, and blue in my USA hat. He's dressed like George Washington. He outdressed me. You know, I'm used to getting outdressed. I said, dude, you should have brought me a damn musket, a militia uniform or something. I
brought my sword.
He did bring your sword.
We're going to have to attack the fly with that.
Yeah. I was looking at that a while ago. I used that a hat, kill that something with. But we didn't prep for this because I didn't want to. Because when I seen that, I'm not going to say the name of the show, a popular TV show, it's a news broadcast, when they went, that just struck me as what the hell. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of what the hells. But when
that particular show is a wonderful show, so it has no reflection on the show.
No.
It's the people they interview.
Exactly.
It's like appalling. It's like, you guys don't know nothing about our country. It's scary.
It's so scary. And I said, I want to do this show. and we didn't go into depth. We got ankle deep.
Oh, no. Ankle deep.
Yeah, we got ankle deep. We walked through it, but we talked about what they was thinking, where it come, and I've made my point by saying it's the greatest country ever known to man. Yep. The only piece of paper, in my opinion, which should be your opinion, that's ever written better was the Bible. And that was part of our Constitution, part of our Declaration. Divine, remember the word he said earlier? Them guys died within minutes apart on the 4th of July. So, if you don't think the good Lord is involved in this country, you're wrong. Ricky, I want to appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to say before I let you go, brother?
Thank you for what you do. You give us a platform to speak our mind and talk about America, and I appreciate it.
I love it, man. I'm a patriot through and through. I got a grandson that's a Marine. My family was full of patriots. I'm a patriot. And I want people to know it's okay to be a patriot.
Yep.
It doesn't make you a bad guy because you wear a red, white, and blue or you fly the American flag. It doesn't make you a bad guy. Be proud of it. It's good. We feed more people in this world than any other country. Sure. We're the policemen of the world. We feed the people. We take the starving and we put food in their mouth. We take the poor. We give them stuff. Yeah, we got problems. Hell, yeah, we do. Who don't? Every family's got that in it. But you know what? There's no other place in this world I'd rather live than a good old USA.
That's right.
Folks, I appreciate you tuning in. It's been a great show, and I want to thank Rick again. When you're out celebrating the 4th of July and you fire up the grill, think about what it's about. You're celebrating the independence because we could be speaking that crazy language they speak over in London. It's English, but it's got an accent to it. And you could be drinking hot tea. You may like hot tea. That's okay, but I don't. I like cold tea. And you could arse. You could be using the word arse. Yeah. There's a lot of things you could be doing. But we had some 21-year-olds in 1700s decided enough's enough. We're tired of all this crap. One of them probably said what Mike says, what the hell? And they sat down, got together, drinking that dark lager beer in the early 20s, late 30s. There were some olders, I realize all that, but predominantly it was a younger guy. And they formed the foundation for the greatest country that's ever been in this world. Probably never will be another one like it again. So be proud to be an American. And we're not going to be here next week. We're going to take a week off. We're going to come back. TEC is going to be here. They're going to be telling us what's going on with that new internet they got going. You've been hearing about it. We're going to find out what it's about. We got a little special deal we're going to talk about with TEC and the Mike Weatherford Show teaming up. So you don't want to miss that show coming up Tuesday, July the 15th, 7 p.m., same time, same place like we do every time. So we're going to be off next week for vacation. Even your old humble host, Mike, has to have a day off. And I'm taking mine next week. And don't forget, Sundays the 13th, 7:30, we've got Sportscast Live with Jeremy Bucklew. He's got KD Freeman and Adam Jenkins coming on. He's going to talk about coaching Tennessee's next basketball star. That's going to be a great show. Tune in to it and watch it. Find Jeremy, follow him, like him, share him, tell all about it. Tune in because he's going to have something you want to know about all the sports going on around this area. He's the man to pick it up with. Also, our friends over at Tennessee Informer, Dave, has got Gene Andrews. He's a director and caretaker of the Nefford Bedford Boyhood Home. Born July the 13th, 1821. Remember Nathan Bedford Forrest, the general they want you to forget. That's going to be on Monday, July the 14th, 7 p.m., the Tennessee Informer. And don't forget our old buddy Terry Hudson. He is doing a radio show on the internet, which is taking over. It's Z107 The Shark. Terry's got 3 great shows. He's got a classic country jukebox. He's got Classic Hits Cafe and a Blue Collar Americana. Go over Classic Hits, Z107.com. Find them. Get on all that stuff and listen to Terry's great show he's got. Terry's one of our good friends. He's on the show sometimes. He brings a lot of good guests over here. So do a favor. Go over and find him, and you'll thank me later. And I want to thank all the guys in the back that helps me out back here doing this show weekly. Kevin Keel, he's my producer. Scott Norwood, he is a director of the cameras. He does it all. Billy Busey we all love Billy Busey. He does it everything. Billy can do anything. It doesn't matter. Billy's allowed to be out there giving you water. Billy be back here running the cameras, or he's allowed to be running the soundboard. Billy's just a jack of all trades. Yeah, I wasn't going to say master of none because he's mastered quite a bit. And then Dana Allen. Without Dana, I couldn't do what I do. You know, I know it's rough. Y'all got to understand it's rough being a trophy boyfriend. It is. I have a hard time being a trophy boyfriend. But Dana in the back, she's got a hard job. She keeps up with all the media. She shares all that stuff on Facebook. I don't know how to do all that crap. They do it in the back. Without that group in the back, I couldn't do what I do, which is sit up here, wear these badass American flag shirts and American flag hat and talk to you, my viewer. I want you to remember, have a great 4th of July. It's going to be here Friday. And think about what it's about. Until I see you next time, I want you to remember one thing like I always say. Don't be late.
The Mike Weatherford Show is recorded live in the Brewer Street Mafia Studios, downtown Paris. A Kill Media, Brewer Street Mafia production.